In this video, we're going to go through the CRM setup. So from the CRM module, I'm going to expand the setup folder, just down the bottom here, and we're going to look at some of the options within this setup folder. The first thing we're going to do is create an activity category. If I double click the option for activity category, we've got some in here to start with. These are created when we create the new company. We're going to basically add to the list. And I click down the bottom, and I'm going to call this new one toy testing. If I tab out the field, it automatically makes it active, and that's basically created it. Now when I'm happy with that, I can click save and close to close the window. The next thing we're going to create is an activity resource. So again, double click that. It's a list again, and I can just key to the bottom, key in a blank one on the bottom row. So we're going to create a new resource called flamethrower. Once again, it defaults to active, and I can save and close. Just to show you something on the toolbar here, is you'll see this quite common toolbar on the top of most of the windows, where we've got a save option, we've got a save and new option, save and close, and on some of the windows we'll also have a delete option and an undo. Now basically, save will just save it and leave us in the record, so now I can carry on adding new ones. Save and new will basically save it and put me on a new line down here so that I can key the next one in. Save and close will do what I did previously. It'll save it and obviously close the window and put me back to where I was. And if I've got a record highlighted, I can also delete one of the existing records. The last thing we've got here is the undo button, which will basically undo anything that I did since the last save. So if I've keyed some items in, I think, oh, I didn't want to key them in, I can click undo and it will take the whole lot out. It's not an undo button where it undoes the last keystroke or the last single thing you did. It will actually undo everything that you've done on that screen since you went in or since you saved. Okay, the next thing we've got is our opportunity competitors. And if I click in here, this is a slightly different screen in that we've got list and detail tabs. Now the list will show any existing competitors that we've got set up in here, and I could click on one and go into the detail option. It'll show me the detail behind it. Now to create a new one in here, it's not always that obvious, but there's a new button on the toolbar up here. So to create a new opportunity, we're going to click that new button, and it will basically take us into the detail for the competitor for us to key some of our details in. So our competitor name is called Toys for Boys Inc. And these are going to be based in the United States of America. So to do that, we could click the drop down here, and basically we could go all the way down through our options and find the United States, or we can search for United States in here. If I do that and hit enter or click the go button, it will basically restrict it down to anything it finds. So we've got United States and minor outlying islands, or the United States of America, which is the one I want. Alternatively to that, on this front screen here, I can just key in United States and click enter, and again it will bring the relevant options up. I can just either arrow down to select it and hit enter, or I can double click it, or I can single click it and click OK. So I've got a few different ways of getting that in there. Now if I just blank that out again and just use the drop down once again, and what we'll see in the list of countries that we've got here is that we'll only have 100 records. And you can see down here it's saying 1 to 100. Now that is because in the system preferences, which we'll cover in the system manager option, we've set a preference to say only show the first 100 records in any search that we do. So whenever we're going to a find screen, it's only going to return 100. The reason we've done that is for speed purposes. If you're connecting over the internet and you've got several thousand records, you don't want it to bring back several thousand, because it's going to sit there while it brings them all back and it'll be quite slow. But if we search on anything, it does search through every record and not just the 100 on the screen. So that's just in case you're wondering why you're not getting them all up. I can click the View All button when I'm in there, and it'll now show every country that we've got, which is 237. So I've now got the complete list, and United States of America, etc. are all there. Okay, so I'm just going to key United States in again, and I'm going to arrow down and hit enter to select it this time. Now we'll notice that as soon as I put United States of America in, there are address details changed down here. If I just go back and put United Kingdom in, just to show you that. So at the moment it's city, state, postal, because it's kept the American address details. If I put United Kingdom in, it changes to city, county and postal. So I'm going to select United States of America, and I'm now going to key in the address details. And because this is the United States of America, we've actually got searchable postal codes for the USA, which basically means that we've got every zip code stored in the database. Haven't got that same functionality for the UK because it's a chargeable service to be able to have them all in. So if I key the zip code in and tab out of the field, it will do a quick search on that zip code, and it will then populate our address details from the zip code. Okay, so there you can see it's put Beverly Hills, California, Los Angeles, etc. in there. Well, now we can also put a website in there if we've got one for our competitor, and we can also put as much text as we want down the bottom. So I'm going to add a little bit of text in there. Okay, when I'm happy with that, I can then click Save, Save and Close, Save and New, etc. as before. If I just click the Save button and then go back to the list, we'll now see that my new competitor is in the list. And if I just highlight that one and then go back to Detail, you can see how that works with the List and Detail tabs there. I'm now going to create a new opportunity reason. This again is just the standard list option, and a key our not dangerous enough reason in there. Exactly the same as before, basically. I'm now going to create an opportunity stage, which again is a list option, and this stage is going to be customer playing with the toy. And again, it's fairly simple. I can then save and close out of that. Next thing we've got is a service contract type, and this is going to be everything is chargeable. So if I just open that up, click on a new line, and everything is chargeable. Okay, once again I just key that in, it defaults to active. But this time we're actually going to delete one of the existing records as well. So we're going to delete the time and materials one. So I'm going to right click on the time and materials record and go delete selected, and it asks me if I definitely want to do that. I do, and then it's gone basically, and then I can save and close out of here. The other way I could have deleted that record is to highlight one and use the delete on there, but using the right clicking on an option is quite a useful option as well. Okay, so I'm going to save and close out of my out of that option there. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is create a new business calendar. So let's go into the business calendar option. Okay, now I've already got a default business calendar in there that the system creates when we create the company, but I've clicked the new button on the toolbar and I'm going to key my own calendar in, and this is going to be called Live to Work. Okay, now it defaults to being 9 till 5:30 Monday through Friday. We're actually going to change that because we want it to be 8 till 8 p.m. 6 days a week, so Monday to Saturday. So I need to click the days I want it to work, and I then need to basically change this. So I normally highlight the first part I want to change, and then use my down cursor key to change the hour down basically. Okay, and then for that I'm going to do the same thing, so I can just keep arrowing down till I get there, or I can just, like I did on that one, I'm highlighting the field and then just hitting 0 basically on my keyboard, and it then sets it to 0, so I don't have to go all the way through. But I can still use my cursor keys if I want, but it's a little bit long-winded when I'm doing it for the minutes, or if we were changing the hours by quite a long way. So now that I've done that, I now need to change this to be 8 p.m. Okay, so again I'm using my cursor keys to do that. I could also type it in as well. So there we go, I've set up my calendar Monday to Saturday, 8 in the morning till 8 in the evening. And I'm just going to save and close out of that calendar. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is have a look at holiday calendars. Okay, so we've got a few in here at the moment. Now the one that we're interested in is the England and Wales bank holidays, 2006 to 2008. Okay, if I double click that, it takes us into detail for that, and we can see all the holidays that we've got marked as being bank holidays for us in England and Wales. Now maybe that your company or the company you're setting up doesn't have bank holidays off, maybe they work through the bank holidays, so in that case you probably want to delete them through here. Again, you could either right click to delete one, or you can use the delete button on here. Also, you can add a new one by clicking that, or just by going onto the bottom line and keying one in. Now what we're going to do is add a holiday for the 1st of August. So we'll just call this August holiday. And then on this drop down box, if I use it, it will come up and show me a calendar view. So I can now put the 1st of August 2008 in as a bank holiday. When I'm happy with that, I'm going to save and close, and then we're going to then create a service level agreement. Okay, so again we've got a default service level agreement. We're going to add a new one, so this time it's just a list view, so I can just key this in. So we're going to call our service level agreement open all hours. We're going to assign our new live to work business calendar in there, which is our Monday to Saturday 8 till 8 calendar, and we're going to just use the England and Wales bank holidays holiday calendar, which will now have our new bank holiday in that we've just created. Now we can also say what our response time is, which is going to be 4 hours. So I key that in. So basically, by using these business calendars and the holiday calendar, it's going to use that in our CRM when we're logging cases, which may be support calls, fault calls, things like that. It's going to use these calendars to work out what the time we should be fixing that is, what the SLA is on that case to fix the problem. So obviously, if we work Monday to Saturday 8 till 8, and someone logs a fault call at 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, then we're still responsible to answer that call by 8 o'clock in the evening, because that's our 4-hour SLA. Whereas maybe if we only work Monday to Friday 8 till 5 and someone logs a call at 4 o'clock on a Friday, then we're not bound to fix that until the Monday morning. Also, if the Monday happened to be a bank holiday, it would use the holiday calendar to work out, well, we're not going to fix that problem by the Monday, but that's going to roll onto the Tuesday. So by using these things in here, the things that we previously set up, the calendars, it basically shows you how it will come together when you actually set up an SLA. Okay, the next thing we're going to do are territories. So we haven't got any territories in there at the moment. Again, this is a list view basically, so we can just key these in. So we're going to have Scotland, we're going to have Northwest, we're going to have Midlands, we're going to have South, London, and finally we're going to have Wales. Okay, so I've keyed all them in and they all default to active. So when I'm happy with that, I can simply save and close. The last thing we're going to look at are the preferences. Now these preferences basically hold, for the CRM preferences, are basically to do with our filters, such as we have a filter on calendars, cases, activities, things like that. We'll cover filters when we go through and have a look at the actual transactions in the CRM. But these are basically, this is where we can come back later, and if we set up multiple filters, we can actually say which one's going to be our default for us, for our user. So basically when we go into the calendar, what filter does it load up? What's it going to show us in the calendar? The other things that we've got in here are whether we want to see in the opportunity dashboard, which is sales opportunities, whether we want to see sales or profit figures in there. So that's the setting for that. And the only other thing really in here is the color that we want to have for our cases. So what we're going to do is have our default activity and case color to be red. So anything in the calendar that we do, well, I do as this user, will show as red. And the other thing that we're going to do is have our default SLA to be our new SLA that we just created, which is our open all hours SLA. And the other thing that we need to check is that we're showing our opportunity values on revenue, which is sales. Okay, when I'm happy with that, I click the OK button, which returns us back to the main menu. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is go and create leads and prospects. So jumping from the setup, because we've been through the setup option basically, we're going to go right to the top of the CRM menu and look at creating a new lead. So I'm going to double click the new lead option on the menu, and that will basically launch our new lead screen. Okay, so in here we're going to give it the leader name, which is going to be Toys International. And we're going to give that a contact name, which is Mr. Toy Boy. And then just going to key in the address details from the manual. Okay, so that's all the details entered. I can also write information about this lead down here, such as what they may be interested in, how we can perhaps sell to them, that sort of thing. When I'm happy with that, I can click Save and Close. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is create a new prospect. So the next option down on the menu, I'll launch the new prospect option. the name of this prospect is going to be Toy Prospect UK Limited. And the name of that contact name is just Mr. Toy Prospect. Okay, I can put a postal code in here on this front screen if required. If I want to, I don't have to. I'll key that in. Okay, and then the next thing we've got is our business type and class descriptions. I'll just explain quickly what this basically governs, these last two fields, because they are quite an important part of the software and how the customers and everything are created. So the options that we've got in here, and this is hard-coded options, these two, are whether we have this customer is going to be a business customer or a consumer customer. Now, based on what we select in there, and based on the country that we've keyed in at the beginning, it goes through to make up which template we're going to use to create this customer record. So if I double click on that template at the moment, we'll see that it's got the business template for United Kingdom, which is because I selected business and I selected United Kingdom. Now the templates basically contain all of the default information that's going to go onto my new customer records. Now it's not as important if I'm creating customers manually through here, but if for instance we've got the integrated e-commerce up and running and customers are creating their own records on web, so they're creating their own accounts, we need to make sure that if they're a UK customer and they're a business, that they get the right settings, and if they're French and they're a business or a consumer, they also get the right settings. So these are things that we can control by amending the templates. Okay, so if I just change this for a second to be France, and then double click on that template, I'll now see that my country is France. It's still a business one, so it's used the default business template, and basically my currency's changed, my tax code's changed, because if they're a business in France they get EC sales tax code. So basically we can configure the default settings that will go on here. Now some things you may not want to default, you don't have to have these defaulting. We can use the templates to put as much or as little detail onto the customer record as required. We'll actually look at amending the customer templates and where the customer templates sit when we go through the customer module, but I just thought I'd touch on these things now so that you're not sort of wondering why you have to fill these in and what effect changing these will have on the system. Okay, so for our prospect, they are just going to be a UK prospect, so I'm going to leave it as United Kingdom, and it also says that it's a business prospect, so I'm going to leave that as business. Okay, so if I click next, you'll see that these are all the things that have come in off my template from just populated on the screen. Now if we didn't have the templates, we'd of course have to go through and set a lot of these things up manually, so having the templates there actually saves us quite a lot of work. Okay, so I'm just going to key in the address details. Okay, so now I'm going to click the finish button. Now I've got all my details in. And that will actually then give us our prospect record with all the details on, etc. So now if I want to, I can continue putting some information against here. against my prospect, and once I finish doing my prospect, I can click Save and Close to return me back to the main screen. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is use our import manager to bring in some records from an Excel file, importing some records. So although we're going to be importing into the CRM module, because we're going to import some leads and some prospects, we have to go into the System Manager option to kick off the import. So within System Manager, we've got under Tools the Import option. So if I double click that, it will run our import wizard. Okay, so I'll click Next on that. Now what it's asking us in here is, where do we want to import from? Well, I want to import from CRM, or into CRM even, and then it's saying, what do you want to import, contacts, leads, or prospects? Now we actually want to import a lead file, so we can tick that one. But before we import any files, I really need to have a look at my import file and see if it's in the right format for importing, because we do have to make sure it has the correct headings, etc. on it. So basically, if I create a template through here, this will launch an Excel file with a blank template, basically showing me all of the headers that I need to have in my file. Okay, so these are all the headers that I can have in the file. These are all the columns. So we've got quite a few in there that we can use to import the data. And there's some useful notes here for each import file. It's quite useful to read if you're new to importing into Enterprise. Okay, so what I now need to do is find the import file for my leads. So if I go back to my desktop, back to my self-study workshop, into my folder number 4, which is my import files, and within there I will have a CRM lead import. Now you'll notice on the CRM lead import file that it's got in brackets incorrect headings. Now this is because this is the only file in all of these which I haven't actually predefined the headings and give you the correct headings. And it's just basically, I've done that to show, so that I can go through and show you what you may need to do when you get an import file from another location. So you've got your data out of another system or from a database, and you basically need to import it. These are things that you're probably going to have to do with it to cleanse the file. Okay, so if I double click on my CRM lead import, okay, I can see that I've got my file basically containing some lead names and some address details and things like that. So what I'm going to have to do is get these into the right format to be able to import. So if I go into my original file there and I want to try and overlay one with the other, that's not quite what I wanted. Let me try. I think it's within the same window. Yeah, there we go. So basically, if I get my original one there first and then drag my other one down a little bit, there we go. I can see over the top of this one what I've got on my template. So the first thing I've got here is a contact name, effectively, in column A. Now I can see the heading I've got on my file is called name. Now name isn't a valid heading in my template, so I can't import this file with just a heading of name on this column. I'm going to need something else. Now the first thing that comes to mind is contact name. That looks good, so I'm going to call that first one contact name. Okay, the second one I've got on my file is company. Now company again doesn't exist anywhere on here, so I'm going to have to change that. Now company is actually going to be the lead name. So I change that, and now I'm on to address 1. Now if I just go back to my template a second and let's move it along a little bit to get to the address details so that I can see them, and then go back to my other file. Okay, so I'm now going to change my address, my add one I should say, to address 1. Okay, now add 2 is going to be address 2. Okay, now add 3, I can see it's got a mixture of data in. This is really what you'd have to do with export data, or a database that maybe you buy in that you want to import into the system, is you're going to have to try and cleanse it somewhat. So, I mean, address 3 could well be city, because we, as you can see from the template, we've actually got separate fields for city, postal code, and county. So maybe that I want address 4 to be county. Okay, but if I look, I've actually got some streets in address 3 in the city column now. So maybe I do actually need address 3. So what I'm going to do is just insert another column in there, and I will actually have an address 3. And then I can always move some things across. So maybe I want that in there. If we just go to the right a touch. Scotland isn't really a county, but so I'll take them out of there, because that's obviously a country instead of a county. And there's various other things I can obviously do to this to try and get it into order. I'm just going to do that for the time being. But obviously, if you're doing an import into a live database, then you probably want to tidy the data up as much as you can, just so that it's all going to make sense to you, really. So them address details should be okay. I've got the right headings on them at least. Okay, the next thing we've got is postcode. So if I look for postcode on here, it says postal code, and there's no space, so I'm just going to change that there. Next thing we've got is country, United Kingdom. Obviously, if we've got US ones or French ones or whatever it is, we need to change that as well, because it needs to have the right details on there. And in here we've got telephone. The telephone is actually correct, so I can leave that as it is. And the last thing we've got is fax number. And fax number is actually just called fax, so I need to take the number out of that. Okay, so now I've done that, hopefully I've made all the necessary changes to actually be able to import my file. So let's save this. So close it and save it. Yes. Okay, and I'll close my template. I can save a copy of this if I want to, but I don't really need to. So I'm just going to close my template. Okay, so now if we go back to the import wizard, just close that down for a second, and go to the import wizard. Okay, and then this time I actually want to browse for my file now that I've saved it correctly. So I'm going to use the browse file option, and I'm going to go into the import files folder and pick up my lead import in there, and then click next, and then start importing. Okay, so it tells me that it successfully imported the table. Click button for details. If there were any errors in here, it should say that it was aborted on this line here, and click button for details. And if I was to click button for details on an aborted one, this little window should give me errors, so it'll tell me what row the problem's on and what the problem is with that row. But this one did come in successfully, so if I go finish and then find lead, I should now find I've got my leads in there. So there we go. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is import my prospects. Now, like I said before, when I was in the import files directory, this lead one is the only one that hasn't got the correct headings on it. All the others will have the correct headings on, so we don't need to go and change headings on all the others. So this next import is just a list of prospects. So again, I'm going to go Data Import Wizard. I'm going to go Next and select CRM, and this time Prospects. So I'm going to browse File again. Okay, so CRM Prospect import file. Start importing. Okay, so again it says successfully imported the table, and I clicked it so it come up with the details, which is just telling me successful. Okay, so if I click next and finish on that, go back into CRM and find prospect this time, I'll now see that I've got all my prospects in there. So they've all come in successfully. And that concludes the CRM setup part. So in the next video we'll be looking at customer setup.